Well, let's finish off the week as usual with a chat about the big issues with the eruditely egalitarian Nick Cater from Nick Cater's Battleground, which is broadcast here on ADH TV every Friday at 8 p.m. I should add that tomorrow marks another expansion of the ADH lineup with Professor David Flint's inaugural Save the Nation, a 1-hour interview show following straight on from Nick's Battleground. David's first guest is none other than former Prime Minister and arguably the last decent Liberal leader anywhere in Australia, Tony Abbott. So you won't want to miss either show tomorrow night. But first to Nick. Now, by way of disclosure, I should say that I worked for Nick at the Menzies Research Centre, where he's still Executive Director, for 3 years until 2018. We also worked together occasionally over the years at News Corp as journalists. And despite being a Pommy migrant, Nick, it must be said, is one of the most patriotic Australians I know. Partly because he, as an outsider, he can clearly see the lack of class divisions in our culture. I say this because tomorrow night Nick goes toe-to-toe with Federal Labor MP Matt Thistlethwaite, the Assistant Minister for the Republic. Nick might be an adopted patriot, but he sees a red herring in this Republican movement, and that's what we're going to discuss now. Nick, welcome to the show.
Hi Fred, good to be here again.
Nick, I'll leave the technical debate about the Republic for your chat with the Assistant Minister tomorrow, but what has always fascinated and frightened me is that the Republic seems to be a Trojan horse for wokeism, because it seems to have quite a correlation with it. It's the cultural consequences that are the most significant to me. What do you think?
Well, yeah, I think you're right, Fred. Look, but I mean, tomorrow I talk about the constitutional consequences. I mean, basically, it's not like the monarchy or the crown, as it's actually termed in the Constitution. It's not just like a sort of bolt-on bit on the side you can just cut off. It's the foundation stone. You pull that out, and the whole thing starts to look wobbly. And I don't think they thought this through. And but I agree with you fully that it's just part of the ongoing woke crusade, isn't it? And look, we got a government now which hasn't even got its first referendum drafted, hasn't even got the question drafted, hasn't got a date, hasn't even started to make the arguments, and already it's moving on to a second. It's just like, they're in such a hurry. And if they really want to get these through, by the way, my advice to them is to slow down. People have to take time to adjust to change.
They must think it's just the vibe of the thing, really.
Yeah.
But, I mean, signs of the encroaching wokeness at all levels of government are everywhere. The latest one is the Melbourne City Council, which you'd know about, proposing to do away with Australia Day. What do you make of that? Well,
I've always felt Melbourne is a nice place to visit, but it's not quite Australia anyway, is it? I'm sorry, that was just blatant prejudice from somebody who loves Sydney. But look, it's pathetic, really. I think it's my view, Fred. I just think that they just cannot recognise there's something bigger than themselves and their own work cause, and that's the nation which we are fortunate enough to live in. I mean, we've got, as you know, next week we're celebrating Neville Bonner, the first Indigenous Member of Parliament, who gave his maiden speech 51 years ago this week. And it's an amazing speech because Bonner is clearly proud to be there as an Aborigine, as he calls himself, unfashionable as that word is now. And he's proud of that. But first and foremost, he makes it abundantly clear, first and foremost, his allegiance is to his country, and he's there to do the best for all people in the country. He's not there to run a special mission for his own people, proud as he is of them. And that's been lost, hasn't it? We're all now special interest groups. It's all Melbourne City Council and their own little peculiar way of thinking about the world, and they don't seem to want to be part of this fantastic country, which actually makes me quite angry, I have to say.